In today's news from Russia, we have even more rebellions happening in the Russian army. It seems like this is a common theme in Russia nowadays. Someone is always unhappy on any given day. We will get into the details soon. Things are getting so bad that Putin is now forcing companies in Russia to give them their employees to fight in the war. There are also reports about General Surovikin, and it's not good news. He has been tortured very badly while he is being interrogated. Lukashenko also gave a presser where he shared more details about Prigozhin's coup, and it seems like Russia's had very little defense against the Wagner March. Finally, we also have more news from Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So let's get into all that in today's video. Just a quick daily reminder that if you hit the like button, you become a cooler person. Here's the proof. On top of this, it also helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, so be sure to hit the like below. Let's get started. First and foremost, here's a timeline of Prigozhin's private jet movements since Putin exiled him to Belarus. First flight, St. Petersburg to Rostov-on-Don. This was the day the coup ended, and Prigozhin was in Rostov, so I'm guessing this flight was basically his plane coming to him from his hometown of St. Petersburg. Then the plane goes back to St. Petersburg. This was probably the flight where it was reported that he wanted to visit his hometown one last time, possibly pick up his family before going to Belarus forever. Then back to Rostov and to Minsk. Not sure, to be honest, why he stopped in Rostov before going to Belarus. Probably forgot something or someone there. Ever since then, he has been flying all across Russia, as if he is not exiled or something. As I reported yesterday, the Russian government says they don't keep track of Prigozhin, which was crazy to hear. It's the same guy that tried overthrowing the government, and they don't care what he is doing in Russian territory? Regarding the coup, Lukashenko gave another presser yesterday and shared more details about the day of the coup. And let me tell you, it doesn't make Putin look very good.
Vladimir Putin has been
Был ли президент Путин ослаблен, было ли его влияние ослаблено событиями, связанными с Пригожиным? Пошатнулось ли его положение, поменялось ли что-то?
Значит, даже не надейтесь на это. Никакого шатания не было, никакой ослабленности не было. Путин занимался своими вопросами. И я говорил о переговорах с Пригожиным, почему я торопился, но это вот те, кто были рядом со мной, понимали, что мы не должны были допустить гибели людей. И заявлялось о том, что вот вагнеровцы в 200 примерно километрах от Москвы. Это как раз они подходили к тому рубежу, к первому рубежу обороны российских вооруженных сил. Это на Оке была, река Ока, где могли бы произойти эти серьезные столкновения уже на земле. И я торопился, разговаривая с Пригожиным, договориться по основным моментам, чтобы не произошло этого столкновения. Поэтому вооруженные силы Российской Федерации в полном объеме не были задействованы, просто не успели. Бой еще не начался. Буквально, наверное, 1,5-2 часа оставалось до того момента, когда произошло бы столкновение. Но до этого не дошло, вы знаете, колонны Вагнера, они, как они говорят, 3 колоннами шли, они развернулись и ушли в свои лагеря. Поэтому никакого ослабления, знаете, в такой ситуации и президент Путин, и любой президент, наоборот, активизируется, собирается, Путин тем более. Я его характер знаю. Это, наоборот, способствовало его не только собранности, но и такой, я бы сказал, в хорошем смысле слова, агрессивности, чтобы защитить страну и ответить.
How can you say Putin is not weakened while explaining there was no defense against Wagner forces for most of their march? No one put up any fight, and Lukashenko had to broker a deal. Anyways, moving on, the rebellions in Russia have only picked up since then. Now we are seeing many Russian units on the front line give up fighting because the government isn't providing them proper support while they are risking their lives. We were mobilized from the military unit 712869, the city of Usrysk. Since December 2022, we were in the Zaporizhzhia region. We were engaged in the all-around defense of the city of Enerhodar. On June 11th, 2023, we, in full strength, were withdrawn from different combat positions in connection with the redeployment. At the same time, the leadership of the military unit informed us that our battalion, called up from Yakutia, mobilized Yakut Battalion, will be located in the vicinity of the town of Popasna. However, on June 17, we were taken to the village of Klishchiivka, Artemovsky district, to the line of direct contact with the enemy, without our personnel being familiarized with the combat order. At the same time, 14 men from the second group, under the pretext of leading us to our positions, fraudulently led us to the very front, where the representatives of intelligence were sitting. My men, comprising those 14 men, were under constant mortar fire for over 16 hours. As a result, we suffered losses. 1 killed, 1 wounded. In the village of Klishchiivka, we were in the orange zone for 15 days, although the mobilized were supposed to spend 11 days in the orange zone. But we were in the red zone. We were at the front line, under constant mortar fire of the enemy. More than 2,000 shells were fired at us every day. We had no opportunity to take cover because all the positions that had been dug, they were all destroyed under enemy mortar fire, as well as cluster munitions and Nazi gun artillery. We were there without air and artillery support, with no normal means of communication, because the enemy had jammed any attempts. Our EW was not working at this time either, which allowed the enemy to freely move their quadcopters and other drones to conduct reconnaissance activities to determine our location. The drones were followed by mortar rounds. We were subjected to point-blank fire. On July 2nd, 2023, the company commander, Senior Lieutenant Bolcharev, received an order to withdraw. There was no evacuation of the personnel. We had to retreat on our own on foot. We walked more than 30 kilometers in full gear and with weapons. After that, the enemy fired cluster munitions at us. As a result, our unit's losses increased. Currently, on July 6, 2023, they are again trying to send us to the village of Klishchiivka to hold positions that are under the control of the Ukrainian Nazis. At the same time, the command of the military unit is trying to force us to become volunteers. They also put psychological pressure and coercion from the command, threatening to disband the unit and send the personnel to the Z and Storm units, which are in fact penalty squadrons. In this regard, we ask you to take us to the territory of the Russian Federation to investigate the fact of the illegally issued order for our actual destruction. Record date July 6, 2023. Seems like sanctions are working, as we will get into soon enough. Russia doesn't have enough money to properly fund its war. But before that, I want to show one more clip. Unknown partisans in Saratov, Russia, set fire to railroad relay communications boxes. Russia uses railroad in the transport of goods for the war in Ukraine. Even people inside Russia are starting to sabotage the government in Putin's war against Ukraine. Things are getting so bad for Putin that he is now forcing private companies to hand over their employees to fight in the war. Earlier, it was reported that military recruitment in Russia's prisons is reported to have slumped following the failure of the Wagner Group's mutiny. Prisoners rioted in support of Yevgeny Prigozhin during the mutiny, but are now apathetic and regard him as a traitor. Olga Romanova, the head of the Russia Behind Bars Prisoners' Rights Group, says that prisoners are now feeling depressed, and there has been a profound loss of faith in both Prigozhin and the Russian Ministry of Defense. Prior to January 2023, the Wagner Group recruited tens of thousands of convicts from prison colonies across Russia, with Prigozhin, himself a former convict, personally traveling to prisons on recruitment visits. He was reportedly a highly effective recruiter. The Russian MOD banned Wagner's convict recruitment as part of its ongoing feud with him, and began recruiting convicts itself for its Storm Z stormtrooper battalions. However, the convicts appear to have become quickly disillusioned with the MOD. According to Romanova, apathy reigns among prisoners. Prigozhin was very popular up to the time when he retreated. Now his popularity is drastically reduced. First of all, prisoners don't like losers very much. Secondly, the word wool, slang for traitors who collaborate with the authorities, has been bandied about, and perhaps the ultimate insult for an ex-convict. Prigozhin was called woolly by prisoners when he called off his mutiny. Prisoners in the Moscow and Rostov prisons staged riots in support of the mutiny, but were quickly suppressed by the prison service's special forces. They reacted angrily to Prigozhin's retreat. Recruited convicts began recording videos criticizing and insulting Prigozhin. Now Romanova says prisoner recruitment is taking place at a pace that is mediocre, neither good nor bad. Apathy reigns on the part of both the Ministry of Defense and the prisoners. The latter have realized that the Ministry of Defense does not pay. Now that Russia is having a hard time recruiting prisoners to fight for them, they have turned to construction companies. Yeah, you heard that right. Russian construction firms are reportedly being told to send their workers to fight in Ukraine or face losing lucrative contracts from the city of Moscow. It illustrates an ongoing hidden mobilization as Russia uses every possible option to find manpower for the war. The independent Russian news outlet Verstka reports that the Moscow city authorities have told at least 2 major construction companies to find several dozen volunteers who will agree to sign a contract for military service and go to the war zone in Ukraine. According to a source in one of the companies, the office of Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin has told them to provide at least 30 volunteers by the end of August. Most Moscow construction companies are said to have received the same instruction. Earlier, every village had to field recruits. Now, it's every corporation, says the source. Another source says that a similar demand was made of another major construction firm. The companies are being required to find people to sign contracts with the Ministry of Defense to serve in Ukraine in exchange for contracts with Moscow. It's not clear how compulsory these demands are. A source says it is always formulated with the word asked, decreed. This is all very conceptual. It is not customary to talk in ultimatums at all. There is no such thing as, in exchange for this, we give you that. But everyone understands everything. Those who have been working in Moscow for a long time. The pressure may not be explicit, but Moscow's size and wealth likely makes it hard for firms to resist such demands. As Russia's capital and largest city, it also has by far the largest budget and greatest expenditure on construction, so it has a lot of bargaining power. No wonder so many people have left Russia. If you're not familiar, check out my video on Russia's demographic crisis. With actions like these, I am sure more will leave Russia soon as well. Even being a government official and one of the few generals who had competent results in this war does not exclude you from Putin's brutality. General Surovikin is still missing, and there is some sad news on this front. A Telegram channel purporting ties to the SVR, Russia's foreign intelligence, claims General Surovikin has been extensively tortured, has 3 broken ribs, a bruised face, and can't even stand up due to severe beatings of his legs. As I reported yesterday, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu is reportedly personally overseeing the investigation into Surovikin. Surovikin is being interrogated for his role in the Prigozhin coup. Hopefully, he comes out of this alive. Moving on to the most important news topic, the Zaporizhzhia power plant. It seems Russia placed machine gun nests at the power units of the Zaporizhzhia NPP. According to Ukrainian Energoatom, machine gun nests were placed on some roofs of power units, and these pictures also indicate that there may be, in particular, explosives. The IAEA stated that so far, their experts have not yet received access to the roof of ZNPP power units. Russia has made it clear to the UN that it will not damage the plant, so let's just hope that holds true. Lastly, we have the Russian ruble. It continues to fall, and it might provide us a glimpse at how Russia's economy is faring with all the sanctions. Currently, the ruble is trading at 91 to $1 and has continued falling for a good part of the last 30 days. Even before the coup, the ruble was dwindling down because of sanctions and the price cap on Russian oil. If you want to understand how the price cap is hurting Russian oil sales, check out my detailed video on how Western governments implemented the complicated price cap system. But it seems like Prigozhin's coup has scared away whatever little hope people had in the Russian government and Russian currency. Selling off of the ruble since the coup has been gigantic, and even with strict monetary policies, the Russian central bank has not been able to slow it down. This fall in the ruble most definitely represents the state of the Russian economy. With falling oil prices and sanctions, it seems like Russia's economy is finally showing the effects of all this pressure. This is most definitely good news for Ukraine, As I covered earlier in the video, Russia is having a hard time funding its war properly, and that's most definitely because of its struggling economy. If this continues, either Russia's military will collapse because it's not supported properly, or Russia's economy will collapse because Putin has diverted all the important resources away from domestic industry to fight in Ukraine. Either way, hopefully the end is soon. This is a common trend in the collapse of the Russian Empire. This happened in 1917 and 1991. If you want to learn more about why the Russian Empire regularly collapses, check out this video where I cover Russia's geography problem in detail.